Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Molly Hudson. Thank you for joining us. Tonight we're taking an in-depth look at the Carnegie Knight-funded News 21 project Unmasking America. This national investigative reporting journalism project was undertaken by journalism students and recent grads from across the country and headquartered here at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University. We traveled across the country to show how the COVID-19 pandemic impacted those already struggling, low-wage workers and people of color. More than 800,000 people have died from the coronavirus. Black and Hispanic people are at least twice as likely as white Americans to die, according to data from the CDC. And it impacted those same groups financially as well. When new COVID-19 cases peaked in early January, low-wage workers and people of color were more likely to report hardship, according to a News 21 analysis of the U.S. Census Bureau's Household Pulse Survey. Many people of color expressed concern about getting the vaccine. Between 1932 to 1972, the United States Public Health Service conducted a syphilis study. It was based at what was then known as the Tuskegee Institute. The study recruited poor black men who had been infected with syphilis and denied them the cure for the disease in the name of research. During the COVID-19 pandemic, black leaders in Tuskegee worked to combat the vaccine hesitancy built by the notorious study.
Everyone be careful, be safe, and remember you can get inoculated today at the Macon County Health Department. That just about ends it up today. As always, it's our pleasure to communicate with our favorite communicator on our favorite radio station, none other than 100.7 WUBC, Tuskegee.
Thank you, Frank Lee. All right. Okay, yes, sir. That's a news break update with Honorable Frank H. Lee. We always switch gears on Thursday, and following Frank Lee is our Honorable Mayor Lawrence Tony Haygood with another report from City Hall.
Well, thank you, Brother McPherson. Communicated, we're just happy to be here this morning, leading into the 4th of July weekend. We want everybody to enjoy themselves. But we do want to let you know that the Delta virus is increasing throughout the United States. Right. And it's a very strong variant of the COVID-19. Mm-hmm. And so we want to remind everybody that's why we got to be particularly cautious and safe. That's right. Wear your mask wherever possible. When the coronavirus came out, the COVID-19 virus, a lot of people questioned whether it was actually that serious. I mean, that was a challenge for us. They didn't want to believe the information. And then when it came out that there was a vaccine, that would be a potential solution to help you avoid getting the virus, many people said from the beginning they weren't taking it. They didn't trust it, they weren't taking it, they weren't even going to consider it. With something coming from the government that was government sanctioned, they just didn't have a trust in it at all.
He's also the founder of Tuskegee University?
Oh, yeah, the Tuskegee Founders Day. Tuskegee was founded on July 4th,
That's
1881.
Right. 1881, man.
But actually was founded by, you could say, by Lewis Adams, who started a small school.
Yeah.
It's a story of people doing what needs to be done and not done selfishly.
Wow. We got a lot to celebrate this weekend.
Oh, yeah, we got a lot to celebrate.
Yeah.
A whole lot to celebrate.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
One of the things that I make emphatically clear, that this was not the Tuskegee study. This was the United States Public Health Service study conducted in Tuskegee. Tuskegee was a victim, a subject to an initiative on behalf of the United States government. We do know that there are many people, both black and white, who use Tuskegee as the reason why they are hesitant about taking the vaccine. It's true, what happened in Tuskegee was egregious, and anybody could do that is capable of doing something even more egregious. However, it's important to put in context what happened with Tuskegee. In Tuskegee, they denied the men the treatment. That's the key. And so when you are using Tuskegee as a reason not to get the vaccine, you are doing to yourself what the government did to those men.
Thank you now for your wisdom, God. Lead and guide us. And God, may everything that we do be a blessing to you and as well as those in this community of Tuskegee and Macon County. And we give you thanks in advance for your wisdom. Amen.
Amen.
Mayor Neal, come on and share with us this morning.
Thank you, and good morning, all. This has been a wonderful last 2 weeks. I'm working with a White House initiative called Shots at the Shop. And what we're doing is providing barbers and stylists information that they will need to navigate conversations in their shops concerning COVID-19.
My name is Juanita Magruder. I'm the owner of Juanita Salon and Spa. I've been here over 20 years. I am involved with the Shots for Shops because being a salon owner, I think it's very important that we educate our clients because they are so close to us. We're like really a therapist or a doctor. And if we gain a really good rapport with our clients, I feel like they will listen to us. And we can encourage them to get their shots, their vaccine. I'm telling you, we do so much. Got it. All right now. Thank you.
And when it did something that's egregious to everybody, do you know somebody who was a part of the such study? Who?
My great uncle.
See, he has an uncle. My uncle was a part of the study. You see, I didn't know that. But there's hardly nobody that was missed in this community. This study is not the totality of Tuskegee. Tuskegee is not a place, it's a spirit, again, right? It's a spirit of Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, Tuskegee Airmen, Lionel Richie, Tom Joyner. I mean, all of these people walked these grounds and were born, Lionel Richie and Tom Joyner were born in the same hospital. So, you know, we are more than the Tuskegee, the syphilis study conducted in Tuskegee. And it's important for people to understand that.
Rural communities without access to bigger hospitals face challenges when it comes to caring for those with COVID. That was the case for Electra Memorial Hospital in Texas. The hospital employs entire families and was stretched to its limits in the peak of the pandemic.
A lot of people just don't have the means that they used to have. But it was amazing that whatever you wanted, you could find it here in town. We used to have a drive-in theater. I mean, it was really a self-sufficient community. Dr. DeLizio, who is the head of our medical staff, said, we will deal with COVID here. And everybody was, you could see the mouths drop. No, you know, we're a little community. No, it won't reach us.
I've been the chief of staff since 2010. So I moved to Electra in 1997 and started working full-time at the hospital in 1998. There was a lot of anxiety. I mean, gosh, some of the initial reports out of China were 5% mortality. You think, wow, this could be really bad. There's going to be so many of these patients who need, respiratory support with ventilators that we're going to run out of them in the region. And even though we don't have an ICU here, we may get stuck keeping them here because there's nowhere to transfer them.
I would say probably 90% of our clinic tested positive within a 2-week time span of me. So we pretty much had to shut it down.
I cover the ER and the inpatient side of our hospital. I cover like 2.5, 3 days a week of the ER and a good majority of the patients on the inpatient side. Then COVID hit and I had no days off, and I probably was there sometimes 7:30, 8, 9 o'clock at night.
I was actually in perfect health, regardless of my size. I didn't have cholesterol problems, didn't have diabetes. I had no underlying any kind of health conditions at all. And then I started hearing about people just getting congestion and losing their taste. And I kind of chalked it up to, being a super flu bug.
He tested positive on June 30th. He went to the hospital that night, and they just sent him home, told him to go home and rest. July 4th, he went again by ambulance. When he walked in, they said, "Do you have any of these symptoms?" He had 5 or 6 symptoms, and they immediately pulled up a chair, threw him in it, pushed him off to the back, and they were like, "You gotta leave." And it was that quick. That day again, they called about an hour after and said, "He's good, come pick him up." I get there, he's still in, just agonizing pain. He was kind of bent over. It was still pretty rough. He came home, he said, "I don't feel any better." I went to the store. I got numerous different medications to try to treat every symptom. Went home, he was refusing to take it. He hadn't eaten anything in 4 days.
She came walking through the room, check on me. I was like, "Babe, I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like I'm dying." She said, "Okay, well, I'm gonna take you to the hospital." In my mind, I was like, "Okay, here we go again." And then we decided we were gonna go to Electra. We got there, and they admitted me for COVID and put me on oxygen. Later on, I ended up on high flow, and then it got to the point to where they could no longer sustain the level of oxygen that I needed. My oxygen just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. And at that point, they had no choice but to send me off to my first trip to another hospital where I was put on a ventilator.
They put him on the ventilator right after midnight, and it was right after 12 o'clock noon that following day that I was notified that he probably wouldn't make it.
I really didn't understand the severity of the sickness because it was unknown to everybody. And my only thought is, I don't care what happens, I'm coming home. And that's what I fought for. I'm pretty sure there's lots of people that felt the same way. It just their bodies weren't able to fight it off like mine did. I'm a very lucky person. I'm very blessed. I can say seeing my kids, it rocked me, and it gave me every ounce of fight that I had. My little daughter made me a picture, and it took her 3 days to do it. And I had it hanging up on a paper towel dispenser in my room. And every morning I'd wake up and I'd look over at it. And it reads, "You are a fighter."
The pandemic changed the perception of small hospitals throughout the United States because, the rural and the community hospitals were the ones that we tried to take some of the pressure off of the larger hospitals, and be a resource for them.
I just want to say again about how great our hospital, what a good job they've done and what they have done for our community, that they have worked so hard to take care of everyone who's come out here, and the care that I received just was exceptional. And I know that was the case of everybody that they treated for COVID out here.
To see more of this project, log on to unmaskingamerica.news21.com. That's it for this special edition of Cronkite News Tonight. Thanks for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org. Next on Break It Down, we look back in time at Martin Luther King Jr.'s life and discuss who he really was.
Hey, I'm Rick Steves. You know, I don't go anywhere without my passport. Thanks to PBS Passport, you can watch all my travel specials. This exclusive streaming service is just for our members. Not only can you see all my shows, but you can see thousands of hours of your favorite public television shows. Become a member today.
Take a journey with Arizona PBS. Join us every Sunday afternoon for Destination Drama. Watch all your favorite PBS dramas like Grantchester.
I'm William Davenport, new vicar of Grantchester.
Poldark.
Nothing in my life has meaning without you.
And Victoria.
I know that I'm young, but I know my duty.
And if you missed a recent primetime drama, we'll help you catch up on those too. Destination Drama. Every Sunday afternoon at 1. Only on Arizona PBS.
Your favorite member benefit is getting better and bigger.
This is wonderful.
Over the next year, Passport is adding new shows and doubling the number of episodes for you to stream.
They give us all that they've got.
From your favorite cooking and travel series.
Even the stairs are breathtaking.
To history specials and award-winning documentaries. Better and bigger.
That really is the fun part.
Stream on any device with Passport on the PBS Video app. Passport is adding new shows and doubling the number of episodes for you to stream. For the first time ever, our most popular programs have been selected just for you.
But there's so much more.
Whether you like to travel,
Wow.
feast,
And calories don't count.
look back,
That is me.
discover.
You know the whole story.
There's something for everyone.
Let's get to it right away.
Stream on any device with Passport on the PBS Video app.
Break It Down is brought to you in part by Mayo Clinic and viewers like you.
Hey, Stanley. Thank you for breaking down the real MLK, or the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now, I want to start with the March on Washington, which occurred on August 28th, 1963. And on the day of the March of Washington, King gave his famous speech. And unfortunately, people only focus on one aspect of that speech. You know, he says he hoped that one day his kids would be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. And people have taken that aspect of the speech and run with it. He's been so sanitized and whitewashed. But there are other key parts of the speech that don't conform to this sanitary perspective of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King.
What we have to know is that King was in the tradition of the Black preacher, the Black Baptist preacher. So parts of his speech he had given at other times. You know, that's part of what happens. And so you could say that he kind of refined the speech over time to bring all of these things in together. But one of the things that he said in the speech that I think is so important and that we often forget, and I feel now that we're in another moment of a social justice crisis, it's helpful to be reminded. But near the beginning of the speech, he set the tone for why they were there. And he said, in a sense, we come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, They were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us, upon demand, the riches of freedom and the security of justice.
Even what you quoted from the I Have a Dream speech, Stanley, that wasn't the most radical aspect of his agenda. And I think it reflects the fact that he wasn't popular while he lived. And primarily, I think he wasn't popular because he talked about the three evils: racism, economic exploitation, and militarism. And he connected those three evils nationally and internationally, not just in this country, about how these three forces resulted in the subjugation of Black and brown people and also poor white people. One of his more unpopular stances before he was killed had to do with the Vietnam War. He came out against the Vietnam War and argued that that was part of this three axis of evil: racism, economic exploitation, and militarism, which made him radical, particularly in the eyes of the FBI under the guidance of J. Edgar Hoover.
The thing that you're talking about is the speech called Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break Silence. And it was done on April 4th, 1967 at the Riverside Church in New York City. And it was exactly 1 year to the day that he would be assassinated in the next year. But what was important about this is that he took a stance, an early stance, I think, in opposition to the Vietnam War. And the speech described why he was opposed. It also talked about the fact that he felt that he had to take this stance because he linked people of color, Black people, poor Black people in the United States to the poor Vietnamese people. And he talked about how they were the victims of people who were continuing with colonialism, continuing with segregation and racism, and that we had to be opposed to that because these kinds of things led to war, or they fomented war. And he acknowledged that he felt he had a duty to take this on, among other reasons, because he was a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Who do you think the real MLK was? And I want to answer that first. I don't think his agenda was radical at all. I think if you believe that all lives matter, especially Black lives, especially Black queer lives, then I don't think that's radical. I don't think it's radical to want to see a world where racism, economic exploitation, and militarism don't exist. So I don't think he was radical. I think he was a proper person in the context of the Christianity that we allegedly espouse. But who do you think the real MLK was?
Well, I think MLK, like everyone else, is a person who changed over time, who evolved, shall we say. He had relationships with rabbis, with Buddhist ministers, with all kinds of people. And he sought a way of understanding the words of God or the work of God and how they shared that belief in God, and that if you believed in God and the things that he was preaching in the different ways that God preached, then these kinds of things like fighting for civil rights and fighting against war crossed the boundaries of religion. He was majestic in his humanness.
And on that note, that's a great way to end. Thank you, Stanley, for breaking down the real MLK as we celebrate the federal holiday in his honor.
This hour of local news is made possible by contributions from the Friends of PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you. If you have comments about Arizona PBS News, please contact us at one of the addresses on your screen. Thank you.
Stream the best of PBS on any device with the PBS Video app. All your favorite drama, history, science, news, and documentaries, all in one place. Watch your PBS station live or catch up on the shows you missed. Discover new favorites from PBS and locally produced shows from your station.
Sign in and start streaming today.
I was so excited when I learned that I was going to be the next moderator of Washington Week. I was incredibly lucky to be mentored by Gwen Ifill, and what that gave to me was this confidence that I could be my full self and that I was deserving of whatever spaces I was in.
Welcome to Washington Week.
I also feel this great joy in taking the helm of Washington Week, knowing that I can mold it and make it my own, but also make sure that it is still within the legacy and the tradition that made it so great for all of these years.